So I know that blood and guts already happened, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to include it in the discussion because it just helps validate my point. So stay with me, all right? So right now, AEW is trying to build to not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 shows basically at the same time. Like I said, we had Blood and Guts, which culminated the feud between the Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite, of which the match ended with Wheeler Yuta basically getting hung by all of the Elite, along with Kota Ibushi, and Jon Moxley saying, we surrender, although that wasn't caught on camera. So that was a little bit weird. But, so we had that show. Now we have Dynamite 200 coming up on Wednesday, which we're going to hear from MJF. We have Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks going against Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh, which I have no idea why that match is happening. I don't want Jeff Jarrett on my TV. I do not like Jeff Jarrett. I think he is old and decrepit and should not be wrestling anymore. But that's just my opinion. And we have a face-to-face with Jack Perry and Jerry Lynn. I don't care about that segment at all. But the match that I'm most looking forward to is a tag team match. Chris Jericho and Konosuke Takeshita against Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia. AEW, and specifically Tony Khan, if by chance you are watching this video, you have completely dropped the ball when it comes to this Chris Jericho-Sammy Guevara feud. You completely dropped the ball. So, here's the thing. I think it was like a week or two before Forbidden Door. Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara had a great promo battle where Jericho comes out to confront Sammy Guevara, and Jericho says to Sammy, why didn't you call me when you were going after MJF and the AEW World Championship? Because if you had, you would be standing here as the AEW World Champion. But then Sammy Guevara responds and says, oh, that's funny, Jericho, because you didn't call me when you were going after Adam Cole. And if you had, you wouldn't have lost to him twice. And I thought, after seeing that promo battle, I thought, okay, we're getting ready to actually go through with this Chris Jericho-Sammy Guevara feud. And when I found out we were doing this 6-man tag team match at Forbidden Door, Jericho, Guevara, Minoru Suzuki against Darby Allin, Sting, and I forget who the third guy was off the top of my head. Forgive me on that one. But that's not the point. When I found out we were doing that 6-man tag team match at Forbidden Door, I thought, okay, we're doing that because we want to make Sammy's turn on Chris Jericho as big as possible. And as the show kept going, and I figured out, okay, this is going to be our co-main event. That's because they want the Sammy turn on Jericho to be this huge thing. And it never happened. And right now, it feels like they've completely just forgotten about this Chris Jericho-Sammy Guevara storyline. Right now, the rumor is that at All In at Wembley Stadium, AEW's UK debut, it's going to be Will Ospreay against Chris Jericho. What? Why? Where did that match come from? That's not the match that anybody wants to see. You know what match people want to see? Actually, there's 2. 1, Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega 3. I did not get to see their first match at Wrestle Kingdom, but from all indications, it was amazing. One of the best matches of 2023, so I need to find a way to watch it. But I did watch their rematch at Forbidden Door, and oh my God, the match that these two had at Forbidden Door was just absolutely amazing. The Tiger Driver that I believe Ospreay hit on Omega was absolutely incredible. Kenny Omega kicked out of the One-Winged Angel attempt by Will Ospreay. In case you don't know, the One-Winged Angel is Kenny Omega's finisher. And, oh my God, I'm trying to recount it as best as I can. And there was just so much happening in that match. It was unbelievable. That match, the trilogy match, needs to happen at All In. Can you imagine Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega at Let me say that again. Can you imagine Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega 3 at Wembley Stadium in front of nearly 90,000 fans? They would put on a match for the ages. And then, on top of that, you get Chris Jericho versus Sammy Guevara. Sure, Chris Jericho is a little past his prime, but him and Sammy Guevara would put on an absolutely fantastic match. And the story they could have told if they actually went through with this feud. Like, Sammy Guevara could say to Chris Jericho, like, you never gave me the opportunity to go out on my own and prove what I could do. And Chris Jericho could respond and say, well, because when I tried to give you an opportunity, you failed every time. So, of course, I had to hold you back. And you could build the story like that. But no, again, the rumor is that we're doing Will Ospreay versus Chris Jericho. No. Do not do that match. You've got to do Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega 3 at All In. And you've got to do Chris Jericho versus Sammy Guevara at All In. But getting back to my original point. Right now, AEW is trying to build to way too many shows at once. Again, I know Blood and Guts already happened. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm including it because it validates my point. Blood and Guts, Dynamite 200, All In, All Out, and Grand Slam. As of right now, we don't have one single match announced for either All In or All Out. We don't have one match announced. No World Championship match. No TNT Championship match. Okay, kind of. We know Darby Allin is going to face Luchasaurus for the TNT Championship at All Out. But it hasn't officially been announced, so I don't know. But, like, no women's title match, no TBS Championship match, no Tag Team Championship match, no Trios Championship match, no nothing. You can't. I get it. Like, this is AEW's, like, stadium debut. It's AEW's London debut. But you have to have some matches announced. You can't keep doing this where, like, you know, a week before the show, we're going to announce all these matches. Like, maybe announce the match, like, a month before, and then people can get more invested into the story. Why do you think people are so into the Bloodline story? Because that story has been going for so long, and we're getting so many matches out of it. And even though I'm not into the Brock Lesnar, Cody Rhodes story, because I don't like Brock Lesnar, and I don't like Cody Rhodes, but that match has already been announced for SummerSlam. So people are into the story. You know, we got Ricochet versus Logan Paul announced last week. So people are into that story. Okay, maybe not as much because it's Logan Paul, but still, you get my point. Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler. Like, I've enjoyed this storyline. And the match got announced like a week or two after the program started. For me, that got me more interested in the storyline. AEW needs to do the same thing. Once you really get people interested in a feud where it's like, oh, they're going to have a match, you have to announce that match and then continue the story. Like, with the Chris Jericho-Adam Cole feud, you could have announced the Adam Cole-Chris Jericho match a month before Double or Nothing, and then continued the feud on to build to that match. But no, we didn't get the unsanctioned match announced until, I don't know, the Rampage before Double or Nothing, the Rampage a week before Double or Nothing or something like that. I don't get it. But here's my other thing. I have no idea what we're doing with the World Championship. My guess is at All In at Wembley Stadium, it's going to be a triple threat match. CM Punk versus Adam Cole versus MJF for the World Championship. But then, how does Ricky Starks factor into it? Because Ricky has been feuding with CM Punk over these last few weeks. And Starks has beaten CM Punk twice by cheating. I don't know how it's really cheating. He's just, when he goes for the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, shout out to Simon Miller from What Culture Wrestling, makes great content. I went and watched Ups and Downs already today for Collision, and I really enjoyed it. But, CM Punk, you've done the same thing. Various wrestlers have used that move where when they go for the surprise roll-up, they grab the bottom rope. I mean, is it really cheating if the ref doesn't see it? I don't think so. But anyway, so this week on Collision, Starks and CM Punk are going to have a match for the real, and I put real in air quotes, because no, CM Punk, you never got pinned or submitted for and lost your world championship. You have that correct. But you had to vacate the belt because you got injured. And so what happened? Moxley became the champion, and then at Full Gear, MJF pinned Jon Moxley and became the world champion. So no, CM Punk, you are not the real world champion. You are not the interim AEW world champion. You are nothing. You are just CM Punk. The only world champion in AEW right now is MJF. That's it. There is no other AEW world champion. It is just the devil himself, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF. And you cannot tell me otherwise. But this week on Collision, we're getting a match between CM Punk and Ricky Starks for, again, the real AEW World Championship. And the special guest referee is Ricky Steamboat. Okay? As a Ricky Starks fan, which, if you didn't know, Ricky Starks is my favorite wrestler in AEW. Ever since he broke away from Team Taz and became a singles wrestler, I've been a huge fan. His charisma is awesome. I love the passion that he has when he cuts his promos, and his ability to either be slow and calculated and methodical in the ring, but then also have the ability to rev it up to 100 miles per hour. I just love it. And it's a great style of wrestling. I would say he's a little bit technical and a little bit high flyer. It's a good mixture of both, in my opinion. And also I love his pose when he comes out and goes, like that. But maybe Starks costs Punk the match at All In, and then the next week in Chicago at All Out, we get Punks versus Starks again. Which, it seems like Ricky Starks is finally getting his proper push that I've been screaming for the entirety of 2023. Because Ricky had a great mini program with MJF. In my opinion, he's one of only two guys who have been able to hang with MJF on the microphone. Adam Cole and Ricky Starks. That's it. I knew Ricky wasn't going to beat MJF and become the new world champion because MJF had literally just won the belt at Full Gear against Jon Moxley. And they weren't going to take the belt off of him that quickly. But I'm like, okay, we're doing something with Ricky Starks. And then he goes on to feud with Chris Jericho, which that's a feud I had been waiting for because I'm a huge Chris Jericho fan. And as I've already said, Ricky Starks is my favorite wrestler in AEW. And what happened? Starks beat Jericho twice, including at Revolution. So I thought, okay, we're going to continue building Starks up. And then he goes into this pointless program with Bullet Club Gold, in which he lost to Jay White twice. So I don't know what the hell we were doing there. But then Ricky comes back, wins the Owen Hart tournament, in which he beat CM Punk in the finals. And now he's feuding with Punk over the real World Championship. Which again, CM Punk, you are not the real AEW World Champion. You had to vacate the belt because you got injured. And so MJF is the only AEW World Champion. Which, again, CM Punk never, ever, ever should have gotten the belt in the first place. He should not have beaten Hangman Page at Double or Nothing. And he should not have beaten Jon Moxley at All Out last year. Those were both the wrong decisions. I get it. CM Punk is a big name. And if you give him the belt, it will hopefully bring in viewers. But, hey, maybe if you build up your world champion like Hangman Page, it can still bring in viewers. My problem with Hangman Page, though, is too many times it's, oh, I'm emotional, you should feel sorry for me, I'm at the bar drinking, and I'm just like, no, Hangman, that's not the character you should be portraying. Get away from that gimmick. When he was feuding with Adam Cole over the AEW World Championship, he brought out a different side of him. A more intense version of Hangman Page. I'm like, yes, this is the version of Hangman Page that I've been wanting to see. Like, he's very serious. Like, you can feel the intensity. You can feel the passion. I'm like, yes, Hangman, this is the version of you that I've been wanting to see. And I thought, okay, after this Adam Cole feud, he's going to stay with this new character, and it's going to be great. But no, Hangman went back to, oh, you should feel sorry for me. I'm an emotional guy, and I'm always at the bar drinking, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no. Why'd you go backwards, Hangman? Why? And speaking of which, that's another match I would love to see at All In, is Hangman Page versus Evil Uno. It might not seem like a match that's fitting of a 90,000 seat stadium in London, but I think if AEW actually invested the time into the story, it could be a big enough match for that stage. Because think about it. Hangman essentially turned his back on the Dark Order and returned to the Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. Well, Dark Order, specifically Evil Uno, you could see was like, dude, what the hell? Why'd you turn your back on us? We were your friends for like 2 years when nobody else was. Why did you suddenly go back to the Elite? And I thought, okay, we're actually going to go through with this story. And then, nope, it just seems to have vanished. And that's one of my biggest issues with AEW and Tony Khan, is it will seem like a storyline is happening, and I'll get really excited about it, and then that storyline just vanishes. AKA the Chris Jericho-Sammy Guevara feud that I was talking about earlier. the feud between Hangman Page and Evil Uno that I was literally just talking about. Leading into Full Gear last year, they were teasing a feud between Bryan Danielson and Wheeler Yuta. And instead, Bryan Danielson ended up being in a fatal 4-way for the Ring of Honor World Championship along with Chris Jericho, who was the champion at the time, Claudio Castagnoli, and Sammy Guevara. Don't get me wrong, that match ended up being absolutely fantastic. But at the same time, I'm like, no, I wanted to see Wheeler Yuta versus Bryan Danielson. That's the match you were teasing. That's the story you were teasing. Why did you suddenly go away from it? I don't get it. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of Talking UFC and Wrestling. I know I just went through a lot, but hopefully you were able to stay with me and you got the gist of what I was saying. But if you liked what you saw in this video, make sure you punch that subscribe button like a UFC fighter. Hit the like button with the Judas effect, courtesy of Chris Jericho. And deliver a curb stomp to the notification bell, courtesy of the World Heavyweight Champion, Seth freaking Rollins. I cannot wait to see his match against Finn Balor at SummerSlam.